Well, I've been getting a lot of questions asked me recently about my go-to products when it comes to commercial fishing. And to be honest with you, I think it's really important. You can go into a tackle shop and you've got an array of choices when it comes to flavors, colors, additives. And my opinion is keep it simple. But obviously I can say that because I've had, over time, had the pleasure of using all the products on the Dynamite shelf, and I've narrowed it down to my favorite ones. And I like to keep my fishing simple. I like to use products that I know I'm 100% positive with, confident with, I know that they work, and that is enough for me. And it's down to mixing them correctly and using them on the right kind of waters as well. So let me introduce to you my go-to products when it comes to commercial fishing. Now, for a start, as we all know, ground baits, that's the hardest thing, choosing the right ground bait. And without doubt, and I've used this mix for many years, it's my all-time favorite marine halibut with green swim stim. Now, why do I like these products? Well, for a start, the green swim stim is so rich in fish meal. It's got a lovely green tinge to it, and as we all know, you go to a lot of commercials nowadays and that's the colour of the venue, especially in the summertime when it's got an algae bloom. And to me, I want a ground bait colour shade that's more of a camouflage and makes the fish feel safe. And that's exactly what the green swim stim does. As well as that, it's really rich in fish meal, like I've already said. It mixes up however you want to mix it, whether you're mixing it for paste, you want it nice and fine, or you wanting it heavy by adding a little bit more water. It's absolutely perfect. And mixed with marine halibut, I'd say it's the most versatile mix for commercial fishing. So I use it for my method feeder work, I use it for down the edge, I use it for boiling in, and even when I go to a natural venue where I want something quite potent and pungent, that is my go-to mix. And skimmers, along with all other fish, absolutely love it. Now, that's my kind of like my standard mix. But also, if I go to a venue where the water's a little bit clear, I'm a big believer in darkening my mix off, and that's where this comes into it. Now, the black swim stim, as we all know, it's a great, if it comes from a natural fishing, that black swim stim is my go-to mix. Just on its own, neat. Sometimes with a little bit of brown crumb, but on its own it works absolutely brilliantly. And mixed with these, just in a small amount, let's say 25% of black swim stim in conjunction with the marine halibut and the green swim stim, it really does darken the mix off, and I think that really does make a difference when the water is clear. Now, my other mix is this. Now, a lot of you might not have seen it before, but it's been on the market for quite a long time now. It's the Swim Stim Feeder formula, and I absolutely love this. It's very rich in krill, so during the summertime, I always add maybe 25% of this to my method mix, and it's a really good binder. It is actually a method mix, but it's very rich in fish meal and extremely high content of protein as well. And I think during that summertime, that extra kick of flavour and boost of flavour really does help attract fish into your swim. So I add, let's say, 25% of that to marine halibut and green swim stim. Not a lot, but also I just think it really does make the aroma of that ground bait really stand out, and I think it makes a big difference. So they are my ground baits. Now, along with other baits, there's loads of choices, but I like to keep things simple. Pellets, as we all know, there's loads of choice of pellets, and you cannot get a better pellet, in my opinion, than the Dynamite XL. I think, especially for the method feed, these 2 mils are absolutely perfect. They're a low oil content pellet, but they just swell up perfectly, especially when you're fishing hybrid feeder. You want a good quality pellet that you can rely upon, and that is exactly what these pellets do. Now, what I do, and I've done it for a few years now, ever since we introduced the pellet soaks on the market, I always use the betaine green pellet soak, and that makes a massive difference with the shade of the pellet and the texture. So I add 50% water, 50% of betaine green pellet soak, let them soak overnight in a bag, and the difference is unbelievable. You can do it on the bank, but I think you get a better result doing it overnight. Again, all the pellets within the XL range are very good quality, from the 2 mil right up to the 8 mil. Now, something that I've actually started doing recently And Mark Baker put me onto this. Of course, like lads like Dave Spence, Mark Baker, they're absolute experts when it comes to knowing what the fish need at certain times of the year. And at this time of the year, in the summertime, giving them that extra boost of protein and food content within the mix, what you're using, whether it's ground bait or particles, I use Complex T, and I absolutely love it. I just think it just catches so many more fish, especially on your open water venues. And I've been using it at Woosbury a lot recently, and I'm convinced it's made a difference, because I've had weights and I've caught carp when nobody around me has caught carp. And I think just that extra boost of flavour and food content, in theory, as I was taught it by the dynamite lads like Mark Baker, it's the same principle as you're walking past a fish and chip shop, you've had some food, you're not really hungry, you get the whiff of the fish and chips as you walk past, and all of a sudden your appetite lifts up and you want something to eat. And that, in my belief, is exactly what happens with this Complex T when fish are near your feeding zone. It really does help them home in on your feed and on your hook bait. Speaking of which, my favourite hook baits. Now, again, I'm a simplistic angler. I want to use a bait that I know works, and I don't want an array of hook baits on my side tray, especially with the method feeder, that I'm going to be swapping and changing, wondering if I've got the right colour. I'm confident, I know that they work, and I like to stick to those colours, and I like to stick to those sizes. So the Speedy Washters, you cannot get anything more reliable than the Speedy Washters in the ESL, ESB and ESZ. They're doing 5 and 7 mil, and I'm so confident with them. It's the only bait I put on, apart from sometimes I use maggots, but Washters and maggots are my only go-to baits when it comes to the method feeder on commercials. So as I've said, you come in two different sizes, 3 different flavours, and again, we put a lot of development into these, into getting the flavour right, and I think it makes a massive difference, just the flavour. It can really help them fish home in on a single bait that stands out in flavour and colour from the rest of your feed. So there you have it, a nice simple approach when it comes to my go-to commercial baits wherever I go. So I hope this helps, and you'll be able to put that information to use next time you're on the bank. And until then, tight lines.